I remember when I was training with Master Russo when I first started, I would always look around and he had just a handful, small handful of guys that he would use as ukes. And they're high-ranking guys, and I just remember saying to myself, part of it was because as a teenager, I was a bit enamored with Master Russo. So in my mind, I was like, one day, I'm gonna be that uke. I'm gonna be that guy throwing punches. And then the more that I hung out, I was like, wow, like the guys that are throwing the punches are like, they're super skilled. The ones that are in there mixing it up, the ones that are getting beat up the most, they seem to me in my eyes, they had the most skill. So I started equating that to, man, if you want to get even better than what, the student base was in my own mind, I was thinking, man, I got to get myself in a position where I'm the one throwing punches, where I'm the one rolling out of stuff. And that was kind of a similar, thing for me is like, I want to be that guy that's called on. So, because you truly, at least in this art, you learn when you're in the mix, then that's where you're doing the most learning. The better
There's
you are as an
so,
uke, the better you'll have an understanding of this art, in my opinion.
oh, I think they're linked. If your taijutsu and your ukemi are stitched together like
Hmm.
a imagine like a hot air balloon. So if one side is not developing, it's going to hold that other one back. You've got
Yeah.
to develop them equally, I believe. So yeah, that's another goal of mine here in the dojo is I try to get a lot of different people the chance to be uke.
Hmm.
Everybody's got their favorites, and if you're really like if you're showing something and it's got to look perfect, yeah, grab your favorite, bring them over. But that's the best way to learn is to get to feel, oh man, that's what it's supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
And um, for me, I remember being embarrassed a few times because I would be asked to be uke maybe by one of the hazes, and I'd goof it up. Um, or they'd say, all right, so now you're um, real cagey, hanging back, and I'd kind of lean in, and then the technique wouldn't work right, and I got to watch James Norris be called for uke all the time, and he's just so on it. He's so tuned in, and he has that ability from so many years of working with Anshu that he'll be attacking and putting on the pressure at just the right moment, and then Mr. Hayes will stop to like say something, and then James will just freeze right there, and then he's just like he's so tuned in and perceptive and connected with not only what he needs to be doing as the uke, but what Mr. Hayes is trying to teach to the group and what their needs are, and meeting the group at their level of learning. So that was really cool to get to watch on so many subtle levels what's happening, and you're seeing that teaching of a martial art it's more than one person. So
Yeah.
that was probably one of the biggest challenges when I first opened the dojo is like, I don't have my awesome uke. I don't have the Brett Moran anymore. Um, so I've got some folks that have never done martial arts before, and maybe they've got a different style. So training up people to be your good uke, training them to deliver authentic looking attacks, um, getting their ukemi to the level that they feel confident and comfortable actually committing themselves to an attack because they know they're going to fall.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's really challenging. It's easy to do the move if the attack is correct, because the technique, the defense is designed to work perfectly against the authentic attack. And if the attack isn't there, we all know the defense needs to be changed.
Yeah, it's like almost like a secondary art of movement is being a good uke,
For
you know,
sure.
and it has to be developed, like you were saying, just alongside of being a good, it being an effective tori, or someone who's delivering the defense. So yeah, very cool stuff. So Hardy, we were talking about as well with Bryan being in the military, and you brought up a pretty interesting point that if I could kind of ask you to elaborate on, and this is this sense of warriorship.
Yeah, this could be a heavy question, and feel free to answer it whatever uh, depth feels appropriate. But we talk about. I say we. I talk about it. I purposely try not to say the word warrior too much in the dojo because it refers to one who goes to war. And I have no experience going to war, but we sometimes use the word warrior in place of fighter or in place of martial artist and things like that. And we have, I say we again, the martial arts community has talked about these concepts of warriorship. And then, as a martial artist who literally went to war, how congruent did you find your experiences with what you were led to believe the warrior ethos was from a martial arts world? Did you learn a warrior ethos from your military training, from the Marine Corps, that was synonymous or similar to or at odds with what you were led to believe the enlightened warrior was like? Did you meet enlightened warriors in your military experience and so forth? So the ball is yours.
I think the biggest difference in sort of the expectation that I had versus the reality of it is all the things that are like glorified and glamorized, they're miserable. God, that's just awful. Think about, okay, how sweet ninja masks look.
Yeah.
How's everybody liking wearing masks right now? They're hot, they're uncomfortable, they suck. Nobody likes it. And so it's the same thing. Camouflage face paint. Oh man, that looks so awesome. Man, he's hardcore. That stuff's annoying to wash off. Gets in your ear. Gets in your ear. It's, oh God, being a sniper must be awesome. Okay, you like laying down in buggy floor, spiders and mosquitoes are getting you. I mean, it's that kind of stuff. So in the moment when you're doing all the cool stuff, you're miserable. In fact, so when in a sniper or any sort of reconnaissance patrol, you want to establish a baseline and get an idea of what is sort of normal for your area that you're operating in. So our platoon came up with a little like a motto or a catchphrase for ourselves, and it was "Misery is the baseline." If we're miserable, that's normal. If you see us enjoying ourselves, that's unusual.
I love it.
The thing I like to say is I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I'm not doing it anymore. The military has a way of taking things that should be super fun, like backpacking and hiking and rappelling and flying an aircraft and shooting guns, things that should be awesome, and somehow they're able to just extract all the fun out of it. They're very good at that. Yeah, so the things that are supposed to be really cool, as you're experiencing it, are the farthest thing from cool. You certainly don't feel cool in the middle of it. And sometimes I've told stories of things that we did in the military or things that I experienced, and I don't think of it as like anything extraordinary or unusual, but then I'll look around and people are just like, what, you did that? So in the moment, in the moment of actually experiencing something like that, you're just operating the same way you do when you're driving your car. You're just making decisions that make sense in the moment. You're just trying to do the thing that feels right as you take another step forward. Only in reflection, looking back, can you be like, whoa, I guess that was kind of cool. I guess that was kind of a story worth telling. But in the moment, you're not like, wow, this is going to be awesome, or wow, this is going to be a cool story. You're just trying to do what feels right. I'll give you a fun story from training. I was trying out for a special forces team, and at the time I was really upset I didn't make the team, but they were doing a trial, and I wasn't what they were looking for. And now I look back and I'm so fortunate that I didn't make the team, because I got to go and do some really cool stuff as a sniper, and I wouldn't have had that same opportunity. But one of our tasks was, we had like a 15-man team. We had an old broken down Humvee, and we had to push it for 15 kilometers through the hills in Virginia. And I was by the driver door, so we're all pushing on the frame and on the back, and we had some poles and some straps that we hooked to the guys up front, and we're moving this thing. And it took hours, and everybody's exhausted, and I'm steering the wheel and pushing at the same time. And at one point, we're pretty close to the end, so everybody's pretty beat. Oh, and we have 50-pound packs on.
Of course. Of course.
Why not?
Yeah.
And we're going down one of the final hills, and the thing starts moving faster than we're pushing it. It starts picking up its own speed. And it doesn't have a roof, or seats. If I'm remembering it correctly. So since I'm right there, we start trying to like pull on it, but it's going, and then we start like trying to run after it, but it's outpacing us. So I just jump up into where the driver's seat should be. And I'm grabbing the steering wheel and I'm trying to keep it on the road. And I'm just like crouching there because there's no seat, and I've got this big like turtle shell backpack on. And, I'm trying to keep it on the road, and I look down, and like we're coming up on a T intersection, and there's a river. And now I'm probably going like 40 miles an hour now. So I'm like, oh, better hit the brakes. And I slam my foot down. No brakes.
No brakes.
No brakes.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh gosh. So I grab the shift knob, and I'm like trying to like grind it to a halt, and it's just and I'm like, I'm gonna crash and fly off this thing, and just it's gonna be terrible. And I finally got it a little bit off to the side of the road where we were just bouncing, and then I made a sharp turn at the end and got it going up a little bit of a hill, and crashed into some bushes, but stayed on it. And it's like, that's one of those things that kind of makes a fun story, but in the moment it was like, this is not cool, this is not fun.
Not cool.
And really, I didn't even plan it out. I was doing what felt right. I was trying to do what my responsibility was as the guy who has been steering this thing for the last 14 kilometers, try to keep the thing on the middle of the road. So it's stories like that you look back and you realize, hey, that was kind of unusual. I don't think many people have shared that experience.
We had a question from Kelly Cox, who's watching with us. He is asking, were there any To-Shin lessons that you were glad to have been exposed to prior to going into the military?
I don't know if there's like one very specific lesson, but there's a lot of forming and molding me into how I see things that helped. So much of our training, and both the mind science and the martial arts, is built around a premise of don't hang on to your story for too long. Accept what's really happening right now in the moment and work with that, and don't be robbed by the past or the future that you had imagined, and just go with that. So I think that was really helpful. Okay, we're having a bad day. Okay, we're having a good day. You kind of realize that's just what it is right now. So we'll work with what we have right now. I think that was very helpful for me. And it helped me, I think, jump on some opportunities too. Because I wasn't just going on the expectation set. I was even just like getting into sniper school was tough because they had these tryouts, and you weren't supposed to go above your chain of command to request to be in the tryouts. But I really, really, really wanted to do it. So I kind of went over there and knocked on the door and said, I want to sign up. And then I kind of got in trouble for that. So I said, I better make this team because my old platoon commander does not like me anymore. And if I don't make the team, then I got to go back to his charge. So make sure to make the team.
You were inspired.
I was inspired.
Yeah.
Now, what did your Marine contemporaries think about, or how did they treat you when they learned that you had spent, your formative years learning to be a ninja? Like what, I can only imagine some of the comments that must have been thrown around, but like What was your experience? And then was there any interest? Did you communicate some of the Toshindo, some of the ninjutsu lessons to your team? I remember seeing a video of you having your guys out in a circle, I believe, in some sandy place with a bunch of sticks. And
Yeah. I didn't do a lot of advertising martial arts when I first went in,
Sure.
especially nowhere in boot camp. But that was some advice that I got from a bunch of other Marines. They're like, don't tell them that. They're going to haze you. They're going to want to make you test you out and all that stuff. So I kept it quiet for quite a while. Only after I had been in my platoon and really become friends with some of those guys over the years did I start to talk about it. I had the Michigan state champion wrestler from his division, the South Carolina state champion wrestler from his division, a guy that was a scholastic wrestler, and he did he would go to like Turkey and places to do Greco-Roman style wrestling, and then we had a guy that had done a couple years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So like we all got together and would roll around together, and that was a lot of fun. So I did, of course, those guys knew that I knew some things, but military humor is a bunch of 20-year-old guys. Of course, they're going to be less polite, which is, I think, a really a healthy thing. It's a way to balance out all the grim and seriousness of that lifestyle.
Sure.
So you have a lot of levity as a way to cope with that.
You said something really enlightening in front of me one time. I don't remember if it was to me, but we talked about how much trash talking can go on, and then you also said if somebody can't handle that trash talking, what are they going to handle when there's real life and death pressure of a combat?
We were talking about that at lunch with Mr. and Mrs. Hayes at festival 2 years ago when we did the big padded helmet.
Right, that's right.
And those guys were trying to find the most effective language that they could use against you to get you to break down.
Yeah.
So they were, I remember like one of the guys was like, "Oh, you're just a killer. You just like killing people because you're a military guy." And I think a lot of people would get a little creepy about that. Oh, and I was like, "Yeah, that means I've taken out a lot worse than you, buddy." And I kind of threw him back on his heels a little bit. And so I was just thinking about that. I was like, these guys tried to throw their worst and kind of rolled with it because that was normal day-to-day communication. So, then we walked through lots of uneven terrain in Afghanistan. Particularly, I was in an area called Marja, and it was a lot of farm fields and irrigation ditches and so forth. So a lot of jumping over canals, irrigation trenches, and a lot of walking through like hand-tilled farmland. So it's not nice, soft dirt. It's huge chunks, clods of dirt. And I can't tell you how many times I rolled my ankles and just fell down. And of course, every time I'd fall down, they were like, "Ninja." But everybody did it. They just made an extra deal about it when I would. I fell in a well once. That was cool.
Tell me more.
So we were down south of Marja, and they told us no foreigners had been to this region since Alexander the Great. So I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what they told us. The locals were a little confused to see us going by. But there are a lot of dirt berms because of where they dug up the trenches, the irrigation trenches. And we were walking from one building to another, and there was probably 300 or 400 yards between the two. And so as our patrol is all out in this middle open area, we start getting ambushed from behind the berm, behind that dirt hill. And I was a little bit towards the front, so some of our guys decided to go back to this house and some decided to go forward to the next one to try and get some cover. So I'm running this way, but I'm turning and shooting this way. And I saw like a little hill in front of me, maybe like a foot or two tall. So I kind of just leap over it. And then there's no floor on the other side of it.
Oh, man.
And, our standard loadout, if we were going on a sniper mission, was around, 130 to 150 pounds of equipment. Your body armor, your weapons, your ammo, your batteries, your radios. There's a lot of junk that we carted around, and I weighed like 160. So almost carrying my body weight around. And I remember first thing I did was like I tried to turn around and like reach for the ledge. I'm gonna grab the ledge. I'm like, okay, it didn't hit the ledge. So then I'm falling, and I'm like, well, now I'll just probably break my legs because I've got all this weight on. Then I hit water, and I'm like, well, now I'm just gonna drown because I've got all this weight on. There's no way I can get out. I hit the bottom. I jump, and I had this big gulp of the water, and I spit it out, and the water was like up to here if I was standing on my toes. So I was just enough where I could stand there and breathe. And I look around and the water is like gray as those mats behind me. Like, and there's like dead bugs and a mouse. I mean, it was gross. It was nasty. So I'm just down there. And I remember this guy, he leans over. He's like, "You all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Well, are you gonna go get anybody? Like he's just standing there. So he turns around and he yells out, "Griffin's down."
Oh no.
Oh, man.
Means something else in
Yeah.
combat. And so our corpsman, his last name is Fisher. We called him Fish. Clever, right? Fish is the best guy to have. He was 6'7", like a solid 300 pounds, just muscle. And Fish hears Griffin's down, and he's our corpsman, he's our medic, and he's like, "No!" He's running over. He's like, "Where is he?" And the guy points down there. He's like, "Dude, what are you doing out there?" I was like, "Get me out of here!" So he kicks in the door to this house, and he goes in. He's like looking for rope or something, and they don't have any rope. He finds before that there was a rubber tubular nylon or something like a hose that they had a bucket tied to. So I threw my guns and my body armor in the bucket, and he pulled that stuff out. Then I put my foot in the bucket and grab onto the thing, and he's lifting me up out. And the water gets like down to my knees, and the rubber hose snaps, and it comes down, it like whips me in the top of the head, and then I fall down and I get another gulp of that lovely water. And
Now, this entire time that all this is going on, are you guys still taking?
Oh yeah, they're still
taking fire.
Still machine gun around, and I remember thinking too, like, well, at least I'm not gonna get shot down here.
Like, I don't know about you guys, Fish, but join me.
Yeah, hop out in the water, it's fine. So he kicks in the door to this house, and he goes in and he's looking for something. He finds a big giant rug, and he rolls it up and throws one end down to me, and I grab it and I put my feet on the wall, and he just like pulls it up like, Conan the Barbarian, and I walk up the side and got out. And I think by then we had air, jets or helicopters or something come in and take away the problem on the berm. So, but yeah, that's another one of those stories. It's like in the middle of it, I was so miserable. I was like grumpy the rest of the day. Like, I fell in a dang well and I'm all wet. Yeah. But now I look back and I'm telling the story just laughing, and because it's something.
Well, you survived it, right?
Unusual, yeah. So that was a fun story.